In 1947 to 48, the world powers committed the very grave mistake of dispossessing the Palestinians in order to create a Jewish homeland. Since then, 75 years of war and turmoil have proven conclusively the foolishness of hoping that Palestinians and Israelis could still share adjacent territory. Yet this is the solution being flogged by almost every country on earth of whatever ideology or political persuasion. Everyone refuses to see the obvious. Imagine, for the sake of argument, that the world can pressure Israel into accepting the creation of a sovereign Palestine in the present Gaza Strip, where at least there are no Israeli settlers yet. It will be very, very hard to find anyone to fund the reconstruction of Gaza. The Palestinians will be poorer than ever, with little hope for the future. Capitalizing on despair, the first thing Iran will do is radicalize more tens of thousands from those who were orphaned or brutalized by Israel's recent war of reprisal. Israel will never feel secure with so many hostile persons right next door, who could attack it by land, sea, or air at any time. It is absolutely certain that one day there will be a flashpoint, and the 75-year-old war will start all over again. The obvious and indeed only remaining possible solution is not two states side by side, but two states far apart. One side must move. This is not an ideal solution morally, but it is the only solution now available. The Palestinians inhabited Palestine for 2,000 years, and if anything have better claim than the Jews, whose claim was 2,000 years stale dated by 1947 to 48. However, the fact is that the Israelis won't leave, and the world can't make them. Therefore, however unfair or unjust, it will have to be the Palestinians who move, who behave as the adults in the room. This is not a proposal for a forced ethnic relocation, as the U.S. did with many Native Americans in the 19th century, and as Canada did, for all its holier-than-thou posturing, with its indigenous citizens, as recently as 1967. Rather, it is a chance for those who want it to build a new life in peace somewhere else. If offered good enough inducements, enough Palestinians might conclude that in their own self-interest they should move. A sovereign new Palestine can be established. Just not in the old Palestine. Obviously, there are enormous financial, logistical, and emotional hurdles in moving large numbers of people and building a new Palestine somewhere else. But this would still be more feasible than building a new Palestinian state amidst the rubble. Who would provide funds for that proposition? While 2 million Palestinians live in tent cities in Gaza for decades into the foreseeable future, and 3 million other Palestinians live in the increasingly contentious West Bank, constantly harassed by Jewish settlers and military, all would remain under constant threat from not just Israel, but also Iran-funded Hamas, whose aim is not to serve the Palestinian people, but to keep making trouble. The solution is hiding in plain sight. Create new Palestine, somewhere else. Predictably, all sorts of objections will be raised. Let's address some of those immediately. First, whatever problems are foreseen with a new Palestine somewhere else, the problems are worse for a Palestine rebuilt in Gaza. Second objection, where will all the needed money come from? The answer to that is easy, from everyone. The starting investment will obviously have to come from the oil-rich Arab countries, but they have money to spare, $4 trillion of it, and a demonstrated willingness to spend it to enhance their prestige and influence in the world. What could be more prestigious than world peace? Next will come the multilaterals. The World Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, agencies of the United Nations. They wouldn't be able to justify investing in a perennial war zone, but they would for a sovereign new country backed by enormous oil wealth with a real chance to succeed. Then there would be individual governments, many of which would contribute just to save face, or to be seen to be putting their hard cash where their peace-loving mouth is. Third objection, Palestinians will never give up Palestine, the real Palestine. If that is the attitude, then truly there is no solution. But many millions of Palestinians already left after previous wars. The hardliners on this issue are not the ones dying in Gaza or being bullied in the West Bank. They are those who are comfortable and safe in Jordan, or in the West. Nor do we need unanimous agreement, or indeed any agreement such as by plebiscite, any more than all the world's Jews had to agree to move to Israel in 1948. Similar to the establishment of Israel, New Palestine can also thrive with a modest initial population. Iceland sustains itself with 350,000 residents. Israel began with only 850,000 Jews. There might be a sufficient number of Palestinians weary of conflict and open to alternative solutions, with more likely to follow in due course. Fourth objection: why is this proposal any more credible than all the others, which were proposed by persons much more expert, with in-depth knowledge of the Middle East, that the proposal's author, a mere Filipino, lacks? The answer is that all past peace plans were concocted by experts in love with their own expertise, and based on zero-sum thinking. I can win only if you lose, therefore all the plans focused on depriving the other side, asking for concessions against self-interest. Moreover, all the plans weren't plans at all. They stopped at the moment a truce could be called, with little thought for Israel's long-term security or Palestinian dignity and prosperity. This plan is different, and is based on enlightened self-interest, economic realities, and sound development principles. It doesn't stop at an uneasy truce, but points the way to a stable peace in the Middle East. It doesn't ask for concessions against self-interest, but offers every party what it most needs. And a fifth objection: where could we possibly locate New Palestine, sufficiently removed from Israel that the possibility of continuing warfare is virtually eliminated? Glad you asked that. If there were only one possible location, mine wouldn't be much of a plan. But once we have liberated ourselves from the idea that a sovereign Palestine has to be in geographic Palestine, the options multiply. Several Arab countries have unused land that could be utilized or shared. These nations could benefit from financial assistance to varying degrees. Only one is needed to provide the site for New Palestine. What do we do when we have multiple sellers and only one buyer? We have a kind of auction. Make that 2 auctions. Stay tuned for the 3rd installment in this series, due out in 3 days.